What's up, guys? Paul Costa with Achilles Heel Tactical. Today we have Cameron Fath here. We just got done our performance baseline course, and we're going to grill him and see what he thought about the course. Let him introduce himself, tell about his background, and then we're going to see what he thinks about the curriculum and how that applies to his experiences with Ranger Bat. So, Cameron, please tell us about yourself, bro. And
thank you, my friend.
Don't be modest. Don't be modest.
No.
Here's the good stuff.
Okay. Well, my name is Cameron Fath, as you said, because I love repeating stuff. I did 9 years in the Army, split between active duty and the California National Guard. So I spent 4.5 years at 2nd Ranger Battalion, was a infantry guide there, machine gun team leader, fire team leader, transitioned over to the Guard side, and became a reconnaissance team leader for another 4.5 years, so that was great. While I was active, I had a deployment to Syria, numerous overseas training rotations to Asia and Europe, and then during my National Guard time, I got activated during the 2020 for the civil unrest, so I got to work really closely with law enforcement and have a bunch of fun during that, because that's how fun that was. But
I bet.
Yeah, I've been, very fortunate after the military to have super cool opportunities, hosting some popular YouTube shows,
shit, right?
and then that led me to host Toughest Forces on Earth, which was a Netflix show that came out recently, and I got to travel around the world and embed in units of some of the best trained men and women in the world. So that was an amazing opportunity, and today's course, I think, was just an exemplification of how important these skills are, because they're directly correlated to the performance and the outcome of these units, right? To include our own personal military. If your job's to hold a gun and be able to use it, you should be able to do so in any environment, under stress, under no stress, under all the stress, and you should be able to basically have performance on demand. And I guess on that note, performance was the name of the game today.
Yeah, dude. So let's talk about kind of how we unpacked it, right? So we had the morning brief, right? We had a lot of law enforcement in the class, and you weren't law enforcement trained, but you were military trained, and I'd imagine some of the stuff was a little bit similar with the old traditional kind of shooting, right? And did you find that the way you guys were traditionally trained that actually benefited you? Like, was it apples to apples when you actually started using those skills in real life?
Dude, so it's super interesting because I feel like there's a lot of similarities.
With the shooting portion.
Oh, with the shooting portion?
Yeah, with the shooting portion.
Well, I mean, the block of instructions, I received obviously in basic training. I feel and also during my job training as an infantry guy, right? I feel like that training is essentially watered down to the point where it can be fed to the masses in the quickest and the most efficient way possible. Yeah. You're not going to get the best shooters in the world, going through basic training in the military, which I'm sure it's very similar to police academy and then even training beyond. But it wasn't until I got to Ranger Battalion where the game changed. Okay. Where the ball changed, where all the things we were taught was just relying on just shooting one round after another at popping targets when there is no need for speed, there is no need for overwhelming volume of fire. It was just let me sit here in my really nice unstressful position and just shoot one round at a time. Or we didn't even shoot pistols for the longest time in the military, so that coming out I had to teach myself how to use a pistol. But a lot of similarities in the training today, and I'm going to ask you to repeat the question that you asked me. So rabbit holing.
Well, no. So we were just talking about essentially both of our coming up through traditional organizational training, right? And then what we found on our own journeys, exploring through hey man, why are these guys good shooters, and what are they paying attention to? And that's kind of where this curriculum for me has evolved, and why I push it out to the masses, right? Because it's hey, if you're going to use a gun for defense of your life or others, right, you don't have to be in a lot of gunfights to just understand what that looks like, right? We have tons of body cam footage now out there to learn from other people's experiences, and it's pretty aggressive and it's pretty violent, right? And our traditional way we were taught doesn't exactly set us up for success, because we don't understand how to run those guns in those manners and still maintain accountability. Yeah. So today's curriculum was really about setting those guidelines, teaching people what actually is important to pay attention to, because there's a lot that's I think a lot of word salad, and people want to throw stuff out there. And my personal take on it is it really, as you saw today, it's it's two things. It's a durable, consistent grip, and that's one thing. And it's picking small spots and having the discipline to maintain that. Yeah. And if you can do that,
Yeah.
You can pretty much do anything you want with a pistol, right? With stand and deliver.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. And one of the things today that really stood out to me was the fact that, you know, when performance comes to mind, a lot of people think you need, just like you said, there's a lot of, you know, words being said about it. There's a lot of applications or whatever. You need to do this. People think as you increase performance, you also need to apply more.
Yep.
When in reality, you need to apply less.
Yeah, just do less.
Exactly, do way less. And I think you said today where it's like the thing I'm trying hardest to do is nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, that really resonated with me because when we started going at speed, right, when we really tried to make the wheels fall off, which is where, you know, we had to be to really identify those points of friction, so then we can address them at the same speed and fix them. Because me doing it slower isn't going to make me do it faster.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So the faster we got, the more I could find myself relaxing and actually like almost letting go of that like kind of mindset. You know,
because it required it.
It did. Yeah, and then and immediate results. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing I think that I really try to disprove for most cops is like, hey man, like everything you've taught about to slow down and get your hits doesn't actually help you, right? You still don't get your hits slowing down because you're not paying attention to the core principles of how to develop a good, durable grip, right? You're still pressure changing no matter how slow you press that trigger. Yeah. And then when it comes time to throttle up, you don't have the bandwidth or capability to do it, and life sometimes requires you to throttle up, and that's why this whole program is about getting guys, not necessarily saying like, hey man, you have to shoot this aggressive for all your engagements if you find yourself in one, but be able to develop a surplus of skill where if you do need to cash that check, you actually have it, right? Like real life and training should be two separate things. Real life will be whatever it needs to be to win that fight, and then training should be as hard as I can possibly make it, but not in a level where it's uncontrolled and I can't process, right?
Sure.
So like that's the key, like teaching guys, hey man, what should you be paying attention to? What am I looking for? What are the core principles, and how do we even grade what we're doing, right? And like the target and where the rounds are is like the last metric, right?
Yeah.
Building an awareness in your shooting, understanding where tension and pressure changes come from and how that affects the gun, right? Like that's not even talked about, at least it wasn't when I came up. It was just like, hey, grip it hard and press the trigger slow, and you get your hit. You know.
Rip it, rip it.
Was it weird for you when I talked about like how we weren't gonna work on any trigger stuff? Did that kind of like throw you off a little bit? You're like, what's this guy talking about?
Dude, to be honest, the way I've been like coming through, whether being an instructor for Defense Strategies Group, as an instructor, you're never done.
Yeah,
you know, you're never done learning.
Shouldn't be.
No, and like the fact, you know, I try to be as open-minded as possible, unless it is absolutely absurd. You know, because we can filter
there's some
that.
crazy stuff out
Exactly. So, you know, one thing I'm a firm believer in is, and when you said that, I'm like, I 100% agree, because essentially a trigger squeeze, depending on how you want to slice that pie, is it just however you can get that fucking gun or that hammer to drop, that firing pin or that striker to go forward, without disrupting the sights is the name of the game. Right, so that trigger squeeze can look like anything. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's a trigger squeeze, it's a trigger press, it's a trigger." Who gives a fuck?
They want to do word salad.
Exactly,
With it.
it's word salad, and I get it. But yeah, the trigger squeeze doesn't matter. It's adding consistent grip and focusing on a fine detail point on the target, and boom, it's as easy as that.
And when guys want to shoot fast, you have to press the trigger aggressively, right?
Yeah.
And I told the guys today, and I don't want people watching this to misconstrue what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying trigger press is irrelevant. What I am saying is that it's a tomorrow problem, right? Most people introduce a skillful manipulation of the trigger, prep and press, or all these different techniques that you can to assist you in getting the results, which they do work. And what they end up doing when they do that too early is they underdevelop their grip, right? So then they hit these plateaus and these walls really quick because they've relied on trigger press for so long to get their hits, and then now they want to speed up, and you don't have the foundation of grip to actually press that trigger in that manner. And that's where I think law enforcement currently lives. You know, and it's like, nah, dude, we need to like just throw trigger press out the window right now. We'll bring it back later, but today needs to be like just grip development. Like I could say honestly, for me, I just started working on like skillful manipulation of the trigger like a year and a half ago. Dude, for like, I want to say 4 or 5 years, everything's just been like crushing it, because I wanted my grip to be so durable, so indestructible that it did not matter, you know? And then now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I'm pretty happy with my grip. Like, it's never over. Like, you're always constantly trying to refine it, right? But I've got a good grip where I can do what I want. Now it's like, okay, now I can work more about execution, right? And it's like certain targets, difficulties require are a little more difficult, right? So how can I set myself up for success to make this a little bit easier on me?
Yeah.
But that's years later, right? And I think a lot of guys, a lot of instructors, it's low-hanging fruit to give people a little success to give them the trigger press, right? Yeah. Like you saw guys today, like it was hard, right? But once they understood it and they saw it and they started to get the results because they started to build durable grips and consistent grips, they're like, oh yeah, man, I don't really have to press the trigger that way.
Yeah.
If I just don't change my grip pressures, right? So like, hopefully that made sense.
Oh no, it made perfect sense, man. And you said something that is so crucial, especially in the training realm, because at the end of the day, you're a training organization.
Yeah.
The company I work for, Defense Strategies Group, we're a training organization, and there's no substitute for it.
Yep.
But the training in mind should be, like you said, it should be hardcore. It should, and it's a very military mindset, because the training we do in the military should emulate, if not surpass, the difficulty of actual combat, right? So that, like you said, we do negatives on the bench, you know, we load more weight on the bar, so that way when we do our PR, it feels like nothing. We train super hard, possibly surpassing what we think we'll expect in combat, so that when we get there, it's nothing that we haven't seen before. It's like you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training.
Yeah, and then a big part of that, I think, is desensitizing yourself, right? Like if you've never felt it or seen it, you can't possibly think you're going to be able to be successful, right? And that's kind of what I see in law enforcement across the board now, is we're setting guys up for failure because we're telling them that this qual, that's, you know, an abortion, is like, this prepares you, right? We've checked the box. And then they get into even a low-level engagement, it's a disaster, and they're just not prepared, right? So like we just need to kind of restructure and get the right information out. And yeah, it's a little overwhelming, it's a little much for guys, right? But like once they settle in and then we allow mistakes, right? Like we'll say it a little different. I know mistakes are going to happen and you're not going to be penalized for them because it needs to be part of the process, right? But then we tie cause and effect of why these mistakes happen, and then growth happens, right? Then awareness starts to be developed, and then we can start making those corrections and executing at speed. Like, I'm pretty sure you saw it, like, pretty much nobody here today did I tell to slow down. It was like, hey, dude, we have to correct it at that speed. Like, if you want to shoot this speed, you can't slow down because it didn't fix the root cause of the problem because it presented itself at X speed, right? So, like, just like with driving a car, you can't train to be a race car driver and drive 60 miles per hour and then go 200. The car handles different. The gun reacts different. Your perception of it reacts different. So we have to train at those speeds that we're trying to do, make the mistakes, identify them, process where the changes are coming from, and just kind of desensitize ourselves to reacting to those stimulus, right? Of like what the dot looks like. Oh, fuck, dude, this thing's traveling high. Oh, man, dude, I feel like I need to help this gun out, when really it's like, do nothing. With you now being out of the military, right? And now doing the training thing, what are you seeing from your students? Are you seeing similar things? Are you seeing same hurdles?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Defense Strategies Group, we're really we're all former special operations guys, so like that military style of training. We're not necessarily concerned about the absolute like performance, marksmanship at a high level. It's more like being comfortable. It's more combat shooting in the mindset where it's just like, okay, well, how do I work around barricades? Like, where do I position myself? How do I maximize the chance of me winning a gunfight with like minimizing risk?
So you're doing addressing more environmental factors and how to utilize terrain to your advantage.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, you know, we do a vehicle course, we do a couple combat rifle, combat pistol courses, and it's all about being able to establish volume of fire at speed, right? Just like what we did today. However, this was more, to me, refined and technical. To where I had a great appreciation for it, because like, you know, in the military, you think about it, everyone's like, oh, you got to be the best shooter possible, but it's like shooting is like 10% of the other, because you need to be in shape. You need to have tactical prowess.
Small piece of the pie.
Yeah, exactly. But it's such an important piece of the pie because it's going to allow you. It's critical. Yeah, and because it's saving lives. Right. Through using what I like to call righteous violence. You know?
There you go. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no. What we've seen from students is. Something you said that relates to is in the beginning of today, you said that, you know, why go and validate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. What's the point of that? You're just wasting ammunition. So that's a trend that we typically see. Is
Yeah.
right. Guys will train whether they're training on their own or with other organizations, which it doesn't matter to me as long as you're training, right? But training should be goal oriented, in a state where you know what you're focusing on, not just going out, putting on kit, throwing rounds, and being like trained.
Yeah.
You know, so what we're seeing is guys who are great shooters, some, you know, some excellent shooters, intermediate, all levels of shooters, going out, training on their own, and just being comfortable at where they're at instead of seeing them fail. I don't know how many times I've failed today where I'm just like, like I was like
That's the point,
upset. Yeah, and I'm upset, but then it turns into that frown goes upside down, dude, because I'm like, this is where I want to be.
Yep.
So yeah, same thing with, you know, whether it's prepared civilians, law enforcement, former military guys that we've seen in our training. It's just struggling to find that friction point or that point of failure that's where they're really gonna find the growth.
Yep, and then understanding in that failure how to make the corrections.
Yes.
Right, because like that's the key. It's like, okay, I failed, but what's going on?
Exactly.
Right?
It's like you
how do I make
identify
these
the problem.
corrections,
Yeah, you
know?
identify the problem, but what's the solution here?
Yeah,
It's
and then
like,
how do we identify those problems and then separate it, right? And then work on that individually and then bring it back into the full equation. That's why when you saw the drills, they get all broken apart into small little micro doses, right? So when you have a problem with the full drill, it's like you have a way to go back and be like, okay, I just need to shoot, like when we're talking about trigger break exits, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, just press the one round, dry my eyes, and just watch the gun and grade how it presents on the next target, right? Was it clean? No. Okay, all right, need to be more visually precise. Work that, and then now we go full send on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, falling off again. Go back to the foundation, right? Retrain your eyes. Same thing with the black pacers, right?
Yeah.
We know it's a training aid, but it's a great training aid to get people to get their eyes fixed to a small spot.
Absolutely.
And then train them to stay on it. Like, hey man, see that black pacer? I need you to lock to that no matter what this gun does.
Yeah,
right?
no, absolutely, man.
So hopefully that stuff made sense.
It made perfect sense, and it's something that's often overlooked because, like, when you think about whether you're, you know, competition shooter or you're just a guy who's shooting on IPSC targets, I mean, they're industry standard for targets. So, like, you're like, I need to get in the A zone, but the A zone is just all cardboard, and it's like, where do am I just staring into this beyond, the great beyond, almost like, where do you find a fine point? But it applies because, you know, everyone wears T-shirts. People have, you know, if they're wearing collars, they have buttons on their T-shirt. These things can be applied to real life.
Make your own small spots.
Exactly. Just drill a hole through their chest with your eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that made total sense, and the training was scalable.
Yep.
So just like you said, we're having problems. Maybe some of us aren't really getting with the memo. We need to scale it down a little bit. We could, because then we would just, you know, scrap one part of the drill, but it's still at its core the
drill.
work,
yeah. We just took some layers out of it.
Exactly,
right?
like an onion.
Yeah.
It's
an onion. There you go.
I don't know. Weird example, but has layers. Sorry, Shrek. I watched it yesterday.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anything you kind of wish you got in training today that we didn't do?
Anything that I wish we did? I would love to see a little bit of moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of moving. Today was really static, but but it was necessary.
Yeah.
Right, because you need to be able to walk before you run.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So to be able to shoot at speed and then introduce walking, I mean, this was like another day and another day.
Yep.
I can see it absolutely escalate to that.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, with the mind, at least with the goal in mind of performance, which, you know, is in the name, I definitely got that. I got a lot out of it.
Yep.
I feel like I have a lot to take back and, you know, share with my students. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is one big community.
Yeah.
And we just want to make the best warriors possible that are out there doing the stuff, law enforcement, military, because that's all that matters.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I always like to try to get movement. I'm not, like I said in the beginning, like I'm not a curriculum-based instructor, right?
Yeah.
You will get as much as you can handle and a little bit more, but I'm not just here to like, oh, dude, you said we were going to do movements. We're doing movements. Like, you got to earn movement.
Yeah, dude.
Right? And then depending on the group, it's like, hey, dude, my goal is to give you the most that you can handle to work on right now. And I don't want to detract from growth in certain things.
Sure.
Just so I can check the box, like, we did movement.
Yeah,
right?
dude.
Because it's like, hey, dude, like, there's a lot of work that you still need to refine here. Right?
Yeah.
And this could be a me thing, right? Because my goal is to train people, make people better. And I'm not saying every student loves this, right? But for me, when I go out and I train people, it's like, I'm not letting you move on if there's a ton of work to do.
Yeah, dude.
Right? You know, it's like, hey, dude, like, this needs work. And if you want movement, you got to earn it, because once we add movement, all this stuff needs to start to be, like, really subconscious, start figuring out, right? Because then we start focusing on other things that take bandwidth. and we're still figuring out grip pressures.
Yeah,
Movement
dude.
ain't making it better.
No,
you know?
Absolutely, man.
But it would have been nice to get to. I agree.
It would have been nice,
Yeah.
you know. A man could dream, but it's okay. No, it was amazing course today, and it's like, to be honest, and your job as an instructor is, you know, we're training the lowest common denominator, because I don't know one expert, you know, quote unquote. I don't know one proficient shooter. I don't know one person that calls themselves a great shooter that thinks it's a waste of time getting repetition and practicing the fundamentals.
Yep.
So, you know, if someone's struggling in the class and we're going down to their level, I'm not going to, you know, if I'm or if I'm, you know, more advanced in whatever theme that is or whatever saying that is, I'm not going to be like, oh, I just have to sit here and shoot and work on what I need to, literally the skill itself. That's bullshit. Yeah. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, you weren't here the first day, but I told the guys, man, because guys are like, you know, they get sucked in this like advanced shooting thing, right? And it's like, there is no advanced shooting. It's perfect execution of the fundamentals under stress. That's what's advanced about it, right? Yeah. And these are the building blocks to build that. So then what you perceive as advanced is just them executing the fundamentals at speed so precisely that then when you add movement and you add environmental factors, the shooting is so subconscious that you're like, what is this wizardry, right? But this is the building block, right? And I think a lot of guys, they want to just get to the cool shit. And it's like, dude, we'll get there, but we got to build this first. Otherwise, it never looks that fucking cool.
No, dude.
You just look like a fucking retard.
Yeah, it's rule number one, man. Always look cool. It's like you don't go to Guitar Center, pick up a guitar, and expect to shred like Jimi Hendrix, dude. You got to do the grunt work. You got to do the reps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Well, dude, I appreciate everything. Thank you so fucking much, dude.
Thank you, my friend.
Guys, if you want to see more from Cameron, you want to ask him any questions, he's got a training company, go check him out. Throw them in the comments. If you got questions for me, let me know, and we'll see you back on the next episode. There you go.